My husband forgot my 30th birthday to go to a music festival with his friends. Not forgot to buy a gift, not forgot to plan dinner. He forgot me. That morning, I was standing barefoot in the kitchen, one hand wrapped around a mug I wasn't even drinking from, watching him move around the house with that restless energy he always had when he was excited about something. Phone in his hand, backpack by the door. "Morning," I said carefully. "Any plans for today?" He barely looked up. "Plans?" he said. "It's Tuesday, I've got work." I nodded once, let the silence stretch. Then I added, "After work." That made him pause. "Oh, right," he said. "The festival's tonight. I told you last week, remember? My friends bought the tickets months ago." My chest tightened. "Tonight," I repeated, "on my birthday." He stopped moving, turned slowly, and for a split second I saw it land. Not guilt, not panic, just realization. "Oh," he said, "that's today." I waited. For the laugh. For the "I'm messing with you." For anything that would tell me he hadn't just prioritized a loud crowd, flashing lights, and bass drops over his wife. Instead, he exhaled through his nose, already annoyed. "Look," he said, rubbing his jaw, "I can't ditch them. These tickets weren't cheap. We've been planning this forever." "You planned this forever," I said quietly. "You didn't plan me at all." He shrugged. "It's just a birthday," he replied. "We'll do something this weekend. You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just stood there, feeling something settle heavily in my stomach. At 6 that evening, I came home to an empty house. No cake, no card, no note. At 10, my phone buzzed. A group photo. My husband and his friends in a packed crowd, lights flashing behind them, beers raised, faces flushed with adrenaline. Then a private text from him. "Stop sulking. Grow up. Adults don't celebrate birthdays like kids. We'll grab dinner later." I read it once, then again. Then I opened my banking app and stared at the scheduled payment on his credit card. And with one calm tap, I deleted it. 5 days later, his card declined in public. He called me furious. And I repeated his own words back to him, slowly, clearly. "Grow up. Adults pay their own bills." I met my husband when I was 24, at a time in my life when stability felt like something other people had. He was confident in a quiet, grounded way. Not flashy, not loud, but solid. The kind of man who always paid his bills on time, who talked about long-term plans without sounding like he was reciting a checklist. After a string of relationships that burned fast and died young, that steadiness felt like safety. We started slow, coffee after work, weekend dinners, long conversations about nothing and everything. He listened when I talked, really listened. When I told him about my fears, about not wanting to end up financially dependent on anyone, about watching my mother give up too much of herself, he nodded like he understood. "I want a partner," he told me once, leaning back in his chair. "Someone I build a life with, not someone I have to take care of." I believed him. When we moved in together, the division felt natural at first. He worked in finance, long hours, good pay. I was doing freelance design, still building, still hoping it would turn into something bigger. We agreed it was temporary. He'd cover most of the expenses while I grew my client list. I'd handle more of the home stuff. It felt fair, balanced. For a while it was. We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony, simple vows, nothing extravagant. He talked about teamwork, about choosing each other every day. I remember squeezing his hand and thinking, this is it. This is what grown-up love looks like. But somewhere along the way, the balance shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No single moment I could point to, just little adjustments that slowly became permanent. He took over more bills because it was easier. He added me as an authorized user on his credit card for emergencies, then told me not to worry about it, that he'd handle the payments since he was already doing the finances. At first, I was careful. I asked before using it. I explained every purchase. He waved it off. "It's fine," he'd say. "I've got it." And maybe that's where the problem really started, when having it became being expected to. My freelance work stalled. Not completely, but enough that it never felt like it mattered. $400 on a good month. Not enough to contribute meaningfully, not enough to feel independent. And instead of pushing harder, I settled. Without realizing it, I let his stability replace my urgency. Birthdays used to matter to us. Not big parties, but intention. Dinner reservations. A cake from that bakery he liked. Thoughtful gifts. I always made an effort for his. Planned ahead, coordinated with his friends when needed. I liked making him feel seen. Somewhere along the way, he stopped doing the same. Not just birthdays, anniversaries, small wins, rough weeks, he'd still show up physically, but emotionally, less and less. And I told myself it was fine. He worked hard. He was tired. That's what adult relationships look like, right? By the time my 30th birthday rolled around, I didn't need fireworks. I just wanted acknowledgement, proof that I still ranked somewhere above convenience. I didn't realize how low I'd fallen on his priority list until he chose a music festival. Months of planning, friends, noise, escape, over me without hesitation. And worse than forgetting the date wasn't the empty house or the cold dinner or even being alone that night. It was the way he spoke to me when I was hurt, like my feelings were childish, like wanting to matter was immature, like I should be grateful instead of disappointed. That night didn't come out of nowhere. It was just the first time the imbalance spoke out loud. The truth is, the music festival wasn't the beginning of the problem. It was just the first time I couldn't explain it away. Before that, there had been moments, small enough to ignore if I squinted, quiet enough to dismiss if I didn't want to fight. Little comments, little patterns, things that left a faint discomfort in my chest that I kept swallowing down because marriage wasn't supposed to be about keeping score. But when I started looking back honestly, the signs were everywhere. Whenever money came up, the tone shifted. Not arguments, never loud fights, but assumptions. He'd talk about expenses using we when it suited him and you when it didn't. We should probably cut back on spending this month, he'd say, even though he wasn't the one checking price tags. Or, you don't need to worry about that, I'll handle it, said with a smile that felt generous on the surface but slowly trained me to step back. I didn't stop caring about contributing. I just stopped believing it mattered. The credit card was supposed to be for emergencies. That was the agreement. But emergencies stretched. Groceries when I forgot my wallet, coffee meetings with potential clients, clothes for networking events, then brunches, then tickets, then things that had nothing to do with building anything, just filling time. Every month I told myself I'd slow down. Every month the balance reset, paid off without a word from him. No conversations, no boundaries, just quiet permission. And permission is dangerous when it's unspoken. I noticed it in other ways too. Decisions that used to be mutual slowly became logistical updates. I'm going out tonight. I'll be late. I already told my friends yes. Not questions, statements. When I pushed back, even gently, he'd sigh like I was adding weight to an already heavy day. You're overthinking it. It's not that serious. Why are you making this into a thing? So I stopped making it a thing. I told myself relationships evolved, that this was what long-term looked like. Less romance, more routine, less checking in, more efficiency. I told myself I was lucky. He was reliable. He paid the bills. He didn't cheat. He didn't disappear. And still, something felt off. The night of the music festival made it impossible to ignore because it wasn't just about where he went. It was about how easily he dismissed me when I told him I was hurt. Grow up! That sentence replayed in my head long after the house went quiet. Grow up for wanting to be remembered. Grow up for expecting effort. Grow up for believing marriage meant showing up when it mattered. The irony didn't hit me until later, when I opened our finances and saw just how much of my adult life was being funded by someone who no longer treated me like a partner. $3,400 on the credit card in 1 month. Concert. No. Music festival. Tickets. Clothes I barely remembered buying. Meals out with friends he didn't know by name. Money that came from his account without pause or protest. And suddenly, his words took on a different meaning. Adults don't celebrate birthdays. Adults don't complain. Adults don't ask for validation. Adults also don't live off someone else's income while dismissing their feelings. That realization didn't make me angry right away. It made me still. Still enough to see the pattern clearly. Still enough to stop reacting emotionally. Still enough to make a decision that wasn't loud or dramatic, but deliberate. When I deleted the scheduled credit card payment, it wasn't revenge. It was the first boundary I'd drawn in years. And I had no idea how violently that quiet decision was about to shake everything. The card didn't decline immediately. For 5 days after I deleted the payment, nothing happened. No texts, no calls, no accusations. Life went on with the same strange quiet it had settled into after the music festival. Polite, distant, unfinished. I almost wondered if he'd noticed. On Sunday afternoon, I was curled up on the couch with a book I wasn't really reading when my phone started vibrating nonstop against the cushion beside me, not ringing, buzzing, again and again, sharp and frantic. I glanced at the screen. Him, then another message, then another. My card isn't working. The machine must be broken. Trying another store. What the hell is going on? I didn't move. I didn't rush. I let the buzzing stop on its own. A minute later, it started again. It declined again. I am at Target. Everyone's staring. Call me. Now. I took a breath, slow and steady, and typed back a single line. What's up? The phone rang immediately. I let it ring 4 times before answering. What did you do? He demanded. No hello, no pause. His voice was tight, sharp around the edges. What do you mean? I asked calmly. My card, he said. It declined, twice. Which card? The one you know damn well which one, he snapped. The one you gave me. Oh, I said, that card. There was a brief, confused silence on the other end. Yeah, I continued. I didn't pay the bill this month. The silence stretched longer this time. You what? I didn't pay it, I repeated. The payment was due Friday. I deleted the automatic payment. His voice rose immediately. Why would you do that? I leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. I forgot, I said lightly. Busy week. You know how it is. Another pause. Shorter, sharper. You forgot, he said slowly. That's not funny. Yeah, I replied. I mean, grow up. Adults pay their own bills, right? The words landed exactly how I'd intended them to. That's completely different, he snapped. How? Because you always pay it, he said. It's automatic. Was automatic, I corrected. Not anymore. So you're punishing me, he said, anger spilling through now. Over your birthday? Are you serious right now? I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I just forgot. Like you forgot my birthday. These things happen. You're being ridiculous, he shot back. This is financial abuse. I actually laughed. Not loud. Just a short breath of disbelief. It's my credit card, I said. You're an authorized user. I'm not obligated to fund your Target runs. We're married, he said. We share expenses. Do we? I asked. Because I pay the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, gas, and apparently your shopping habits. What exactly do you contribute financially? He stammered. I manage things. I handle the house. You mean you're home a lot, I said. That's not the same thing. He exhaled sharply, frustration vibrating through the line. I can't believe you're being this petty, he said. And I can't believe you ditched your wife's 30th birthday for a music festival and then told her to grow up, I replied. But here we are. Fix it, he said. Pay the bill right now. No. There was a beat of stunned silence. Excuse me? I said no, I repeated. If you want the card to work, pay it yourself. I don't have $3,400, he said. Then I guess you shouldn't have spent $3,400. The line went dead. 20 minutes later, the front door slammed. He stood in the entryway, jaw tight, shoulders squared, anger radiating off him in waves. He didn't yell. He just stared at me like I'd done something unthinkable. You're really doing this, he said. Doing what? I asked. This revenge thing, he said. Over a birthday. It's not revenge, I said. It's boundaries. His eyes flicked away for half a second, long enough for me to know I'd hit something real. You're right, I continued. We should both be adults. And adults don't expect someone else to fund their lifestyle while treating them like an inconvenience. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I appreciate you, he said finally. For what? I asked quietly. He didn't have an answer. Instead, he grabbed his jacket, muttered something under his breath, and walked out. That night, he stayed with a friend. And the next morning, his mother called. The real escalation had officially begun. The call from his mother came early, before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. I stared at the screen for a full 3 rings before answering, already feeling that familiar tightening in my chest, the one that came whenever his family inserted themselves into our marriage like referees who'd already picked a side. What is going on? She demanded, skipping any pretense of concern. My son says you're withholding money from him. I closed my eyes for a moment, grounding myself. I'm not withholding anything, I said evenly. I stopped paying a credit card bill that isn't mine. That card is his lifeline, she snapped. How is he supposed to buy necessities? With the $400 a month he makes, I replied. Or he could get a full-time job, like an adult. There was a sharp inhale on the other end of the line. This is not how marriage works, she said. You're being vindictive and small. I felt the familiar urge to explain myself, to justify, to soften my words so they'd be easier for her to swallow. I'd done that for years. Smoothed things over, made excuses, took responsibility for other people's comfort. Not this time. This is exactly how marriage works, I said. 2 adults sharing responsibility. Not one adult funding another adult's lifestyle while being told to grow up for wanting basic respect. She hung up without another word. I sat there long after the line went dead, phone still pressed to my ear, heart beating faster than it should have. My hands weren't shaking. but something inside me was. Not fear, not regret. Relief. For the first time, I hadn't backed down. He came home 2 days later. Different energy, different posture. No anger this time, no accusations. Just tired eyes and a careful tone, like he was stepping around broken glass. "I'm sorry," he said, standing just inside the doorway. "I really am. I was thoughtless about your birthday. I got caught up with my friends. I didn't think." I waited. He took a step closer. "Can we just move past this?" "Sure," I said. "Pay your credit card bill and we can talk." The hope on his face collapsed instantly. "Baby," he said, dropping his voice, "you know I don't have that kind of money." "Then pay what you can," I replied, "and figure out the rest." "That's not fair." "What's not fair," I said, "is expecting me to clean up debt you created while dismissing me when I was hurt." "We're married," he insisted. "Your money is my money." I looked at him carefully. "Is your money my money?" I asked. He hesitated. "I don't make enough for that to matter," he said finally. "Exactly," I replied. "So maybe don't spend like you do." He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. "I can't believe you're being this cold," he said. "I'm not cold," I said. "I'm practical." He left again that night, this time to his sister's place. The next 2 weeks were worse. His friends started texting me, all of them. The same people smiling in that photo from the music festival. "You need to fix this. He's miserable. You're destroying your marriage over one mistake." I answered once. "He's miserable because his free credit card got shut off," I wrote, "not because he hurt me." That only escalated things. One of them accused me of financial abuse. Another told me I was being controlling. A third asked if I realized how pathetic I sounded, blowing up a marriage over a birthday. I didn't respond after that. Then his father called. First time in months. "We need to talk," he said, voice heavy, authoritative. "Okay," I replied. "About what?" "This situation with the credit card," he said. "My son is very upset." "I'm sure he is," I said. "Accountability is uncomfortable when you're not used to it." "This punishment doesn't fit the crime," he said. "Marriage is about compromise." "You're right," I said. "What has your son compromised on?" There was a long pause. "Well, he manages the home." I almost laughed. "I hired a cleaning service last year," I said. "I do most of the cooking. He doesn't work full-time. So what exactly is he contributing besides spending my money?" Silence. "That's harsh," he said finally. "It's honest," I replied, "and I'm done being a wallet." When the call ended, I sat alone in the quiet house and realized something that surprised me. I wasn't scared of losing my marriage. I was scared of going back to it the way it was. And for the first time since this all began, I let myself admit the truth. If setting a boundary was enough to shatter everything, then what we had wasn't as strong as I'd pretended. The pressure didn't ease after that. It multiplied. What started as private arguments spilled outward, pulled into the orbit of everyone who believed they had a stake in our marriage. His family, his friends, people who hadn't seen the inside of our home in months but felt comfortable diagnosing it anyway. 2 days after the call with his father, he showed up at the house again, this time with his sister. I knew it the moment I heard the second set of footsteps behind him, the pause at the door, the way he didn't meet my eyes right away. "We need to talk," he said. "Really talk." "Okay," I replied, standing from the couch. "Talk." His sister stayed near the door, arms crossed, eyes sharp, silent but present. A witness. Backup. "I don't understand why you're doing this," he began. "What you actually need from me to fix things." I looked from him to her, then back again. "What I need is simple," I said. "I need respect. I need effort. And I need you to contribute to this marriage in a real way." "I do contribute," he said quickly. "How?" I asked. "Specifically." He hesitated. "I manage things," he said. "I handle the day-to-day stuff." "Like what?" I pressed. "Give me examples." He opened his mouth, closed it. His sister shifted uncomfortably. "The groceries," he said finally. "I buy groceries," I replied, "on my way home from work, because you're never sure what we need." "I organize," he added. "I hired an organizer last year," I said calmly, because the garage sat untouched for months. His jaw tightened. "Okay, maybe I'm not perfect at that stuff," he said, "but I'm your husband. That should count for something." "It does," I said. "It counts for partnership, love, support, but it doesn't count as permission to spend thousands of dollars I earn while dismissing me." His sister finally spoke. "You're being unreasonable," she said. "He made one mistake. He apologized." "Did he?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Or did he say I was overreacting?" "I said I was sorry," he snapped. "No," I said. "You said I should grow up." Silence. "Fine," he said sharply. "I'm sorry I forgot your birthday. I'm sorry I went to the music festival. I'm sorry I said you should grow up. Is that what you want to hear?" "I want to hear that you understand why it was wrong," I said. "Not that you're sorry I'm mad." Because it hurt your feelings, he said. Why did it hurt? I asked. He looked frustrated now, cornered. Because birthdays matter to you. Why do they matter? I asked. Because... He stopped, exhaled. Because turning 30 is a milestone, and your spouse should show up. Yes, I said softly. That's why. The room went quiet. His sister looked away. The credit card, I continued. That wasn't punishment. That was me realizing I've been enabling a dynamic where I'm the provider and you're the consumer. I'm done being the bank. So what? He said. I'm supposed to live on $400 a month? Or get a full-time job? That's what most adults do, I replied. I'm building my design business. For 2 years, I said. You have 3 clients. That's not a business. That's a hobby. His sister snapped her head toward me. That was cruel. It was honest, I said, and I'm tired. Tired of 60-hour weeks. Tired of being treated like an ATM. Tired of being told to grow up when I asked for basic consideration. That's when he broke, not dramatically. No yelling, no theatrics. Just a quiet, cracking question. So what now? He asked. You want a divorce? I don't know, I said truthfully. Do you want to be married to me or to my income? That's not fair. Answer the question, I said. He didn't. And that silence told me more than any argument ever had. They left soon after. I stayed behind, sitting on the edge of the couch, staring at the empty space where he'd stood. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. I felt clear. That night, I realized something I'd been avoiding for years. We hadn't built a partnership. We'd built a dependency. And dependencies don't collapse quietly. They unravel slowly, painfully, pulling everyone else into the mess. By the end of that week, he moved out. Not officially. Just a bag of clothes, a toothbrush, space. And with that space came a truth I couldn't unsee anymore. This wasn't about a birthday. It was about who we were when comfort was removed. And neither of us liked the answer. The house felt different once he left. Not emptier, just quieter in a way that made every sound sharper. The hum of the refrigerator. The click of the thermostat. My own footsteps moving through rooms that suddenly felt too large for one person. He didn't officially move out. No dramatic announcement, just a duffel bag by the door, a mumbled, "I need space," and the soft finality of the lock turning behind him. At first, I told myself it was temporary. Cooling off space. A reset. But days passed, then a week. And with the silence came doubt. Late at night, when the adrenaline wore off, the questions crept in. Not the loud ones. Those were easy to swat away. The quiet ones were worse. Was I too harsh? Did I overreact? Should I have handled it differently? I replayed the moment I deleted the payment over and over, my finger hovering on the screen in memory. One tap. Such a small action for something that detonated so much. Some nights I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hands, tempted to text him just to break the stillness. Not to apologize, not to backtrack. Just to feel married again. But every time I imagined sending "I miss you," another memory followed close behind, his voice telling me to grow up, the ease with which he dismissed my hurt, the way my birthday had been treated like an inconvenience. And the urge faded. The loneliness wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sobbing on the floor or screaming into pillows. It was subtler than that, heavier. It was eating dinner alone and realizing I didn't have to consider someone else's preferences anymore, and feeling both relieved and sad at the same time. It was checking the bank account and seeing the numbers stabilize, expenses suddenly predictable, and wondering why that made me feel safer than I'd felt in years. His absence brought clarity I hadn't asked for. Without him there, I saw how much emotional labor I'd been carrying, how often I'd minimized my needs to keep things smooth, how being easygoing had slowly turned into being invisible. The messages didn't stop. His friends backed off when I stopped responding, but his family didn't. His mother sent a long text about forgiveness and sacrifice. His sister sent one about fighting for marriage. Even an aunt I barely spoke to weighed in, reminding me that men don't think about birthdays the same way. None of them asked how I was. They all asked what I was going to do to fix it. That night, alone in the quiet house, the truth finally settled fully into my chest. If the only way to keep my marriage intact was to shrink myself, pay for peace, and accept disrespect quietly, then maybe losing it wasn't the worst outcome. That realization scared me more than the thought of separation ever had. A few days later, he sent a message. Not angry, not apologetic. We need to talk. We met at the house, standing across from each other like strangers negotiating shared space. He looked tired, not broken, not remorseful, just inconvenienced by discomfort. I didn't think it would go this far, he said. I did, I replied. He frowned. You didn't have to embarrass me. That word, embarrass, hit harder than any insult. Not hurt, not disappointed, embarrassed. In that moment, I knew something fundamental had cracked beyond repair. I didn't embarrass you, I said quietly. You embarrassed yourself by living beyond your means and expecting me to fund it. He shook his head. You've changed. I had to, I said. The version of me you liked didn't have boundaries. He didn't argue. He just looked away. That night, after he left again, I sat alone on the couch and finally admitted the thing I'd been avoiding since the music festival. I wasn't mourning the marriage I had. I was mourning the one I thought I had. And that grief, the loss of an illusion, hurt more than losing him ever could. Because once you see the truth clearly, you can't unsee it. And the darkest part wasn't the possibility of divorce. It was realizing how long I'd accepted less than I deserved and called it love. The real shift didn't happen during an argument. It happened quietly, on a Tuesday afternoon, when his mother called again. Her tone was different this time, not sharp, not defensive, measured, almost cautious. I want to have an honest conversation, she said. Is that possible? Yes, I replied. It is. There was a pause on the line, like she was choosing her words carefully. He's staying with us now, she said, and he's not doing well. I waited. He had to take a full-time job, she continued. Retail management, long hours, on his feet all day. He comes home exhausted, complains constantly about money, about work, about everything. I didn't interrupt, I just listened. And when he talks about your marriage, she said slowly, he talks about what you provided. The house, the credit card, the freedom to build his design business. He doesn't really talk about you. My grip tightened around the phone. Not about missing you, she went on. Not about loving you. Not about wanting to fix things. He's angry that his comfort is gone. The words landed heavily, but instead of pain, I felt something else. Validation. I didn't want to see it, she admitted. He's my son, but watching him now, he's mourning the lifestyle, not the relationship. I exhaled for the first time since she'd started talking. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I thought you were being cruel, she said. But you weren't. You were being honest, and he needs to figure out who he is without your financial support before he can figure out if he actually wants to be married. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Thank you, I said finally. For what? For seeing it, I replied. Before hanging up, she added quietly, and for what it's worth, I'm sorry about your birthday. That was thoughtless of him. When the call ended, I sat there in the stillness, phone resting on my knee, heart steady for once. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't cold, I wasn't vindictive. I had simply stopped carrying someone who didn't want to walk beside me. A week later, he asked to meet for coffee. Public place, neutral ground. He looked different, thinner, more worn down. Not broken, but stripped of the ease he used to wear like armor. How are you? He asked. Honestly, I said, better. He nodded. The house must feel quiet. It does, I said, but simpler. I got a job, he said quickly. Full-time. That's good. I hate it, he admitted. Customers are awful. My boss is worse. That's most jobs, I said calmly. He looked at me, searching. I didn't realize how good I had it, he said. You had it easy, I replied. There's a difference. Silence settled between us. I'm sorry, he said then. Actually sorry. Not sorry you were mad. Sorry for what I did. The birthday. The way I talked to you. The whole dynamic. I studied his face, looking for deflection. For excuses. There were none. Are we? Is there any chance we can fix this? He asked. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if there's anything to fix. We built a marriage on an uneven foundation. What if things were different? He asked. What if I kept this job, contributed, showed up more? Then we'd be talking about a different marriage than the one we had, I said. And maybe that one could work. He hesitated. My mom told you, didn't she? She did, I said. And she was honest. I do miss you, he said. Not just the house or the money. I miss you. What do you miss? I asked. He thought for a long moment. The way you listened to my day, even when yours was worse, he said. How you always picked up my favorite snacks when I was stressed. The way you made me feel safe. I nodded once. All of those are things I did for you, I said gently. What did you do for me? He didn't answer. And that silence, again, was the truth. We finished our coffee and agreed to keep talking. No promises. No timelines. As I walked away, something inside me felt settled. For the first time since all of this began, the power wasn't in proving a point or winning an argument. It was in knowing my worth and refusing to negotiate it. The aftermath didn't come all at once. It arrived in layers, slow, unavoidable, and permanent. 3 weeks after he moved in with his parents, the separation stopped feeling temporary. not because of anything dramatic, but because of how naturally our lives began to detach from each other. The credit card was the first thing I closed. Not out of spite, not to make a point. Just closure. I paid off the remaining balance, cut the card in half, and closed the account entirely. Watching the confirmation screen load felt oddly ceremonial, like sealing an envelope on a chapter I'd already finished reading. He didn't protest, not this time. Instead, he sent a message later that night. I saw the accounts closed. Yeah, I replied, clean slate. Probably for the best, he wrote. That was it. No anger, no guilt trips, just quiet acceptance. The house was next. Once the initial tension faded, the math became unavoidable. On my income alone, keeping it would mean living house poor, stretching every paycheck thin, resenting the walls instead of enjoying them. On his new salary, he couldn't contribute meaningfully, even if he wanted to. So we listed it. Standing in the empty living room during the walkthrough, I felt something loosen in my chest. This house had been the physical symbol of our imbalance, my income, his comfort, our silence. Letting it go felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. We agreed to split whatever profit remained after closing costs and the mortgage. Fair, clean, no arguments. In therapy, something I'd started quietly during the separation, I admitted something I hadn't said out loud before. I don't think I ever felt chosen, I told my therapist. I felt useful. That realization hurt more than any fight. He started therapy too. I know because he told me, not proudly, but like someone acknowledging an overdue responsibility. I need to figure out why I coasted, he said during one of our check-ins. Why I let you carry so much. I appreciated the honesty. I didn't let it soften my boundaries. We met a few more times. Coffee, short walks, conversations that stayed above the surface unless one of us intentionally pushed deeper. There were no promises, no declarations, just two people trying to understand the wreckage without stepping back into it. One afternoon, he admitted something that finally closed the loop for me. I think I loved what our marriage gave me, more than I loved maintaining it, he said quietly. I nodded. That's the difference between being a partner and being comfortable, I replied. He didn't argue. His family stopped calling. Not because they suddenly agreed with me, but because there was nothing left to pressure. The situation had stabilized. Their son was working, paying his own bills, learning slowly what independence actually cost. His mother sent one last message. I didn't understand at first, but I do now. Thank you for not enabling him. I read it twice, then archived it. The strangest part was how peaceful things became once the chaos settled. No more budgeting around someone else's spending. No more bracing for dismissive comments. No more shrinking my needs to avoid conflict. I started making decisions based solely on what made sense for me. Smaller apartment, closer to work, less impressive, more honest. Some nights were still lonely, but they were honest lonely, not lonely in a marriage lonely. And that difference mattered. The birthday that started, everything stopped feeling like a wound and started feeling like a marker. The moment I stopped asking to be valued and started acting like I already was. We were still married on paper, still separated in practice, still uncertain in theory. But one thing was clear. Whatever happened next, divorce or reconciliation, it wouldn't be built on dependency again. That version of us was gone. And I wasn't interested in resurrecting it. Looking back now, it almost feels ridiculous that something as small as a birthday could crack open an entire marriage. From the outside, it's easy to say I overreacted, that I should have communicated better, that cutting off a credit card wasn't the healthiest way to handle hurt feelings. And maybe there's some truth in that. But the birthday wasn't the real issue. It was the moment I realized how little space there was for me inside my own marriage. He didn't forget the date by accident. He forgot because remembering me had become optional. Because comfort had replaced intention. Because I'd slowly taught him, without meaning to, that I would always absorb the disappointment quietly and keep things running smoothly. The grow-up text didn't hurt because it was rude. It hurt because it revealed how he saw me. Someone asking for too much by asking for effort. Growing up, as it turns out, wasn't about swallowing that hurt and moving on. It was about recognizing that love without respect turns into obligation. That partnership without balance turns into dependency, and that being needed is not the same as being cherished. I didn't stop paying the credit card to punish him. I stopped because I finally understood that enabling someone to stay comfortable while I felt invisible wasn't kindness. It was self-erasure. He's growing up now too, learning that independence is expensive, that full-time work is exhausting. That money doesn't just appear because someone else loves you. That being an adult means carrying your own weight, even when it's heavy. Maybe one day we'll find our way back to each other as different people. Maybe we won't. Either way, the version of me who accepted less than she deserved is gone. I don't regret setting boundaries. I don't regret choosing myself. And I don't regret that birthday. Because 30 didn't break my marriage. It exposed it. And last weekend, I finally celebrated, alone, at a quiet steakhouse, ordering exactly what I wanted. I paid for it myself, dessert included, no guilt, no waiting for permission. 30 felt lighter than I expected. Not because everything worked out perfectly, but because for the first time in a long time, my life and my love belong to me. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying with me through this story. I know some of you might be thinking, it was just a birthday, and on the surface, it was. But if you've ever been in a relationship where your needs were minimized, where your effort became expected instead of appreciated, then you know it's never about the one moment. It's about the pattern underneath it. Sometimes the loudest wake-up calls don't come from betrayal or cheating. They come from quiet disrespect, from being told to grow up when all you wanted was to matter. If this story resonated with you or reminded you of a moment where you had to choose yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your stories matter more than you think, and you never know who might feel less alone reading them. If you found value in this, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really does help more than you realize, and it allows us to keep sharing stories that dig deeper than the surface. And if you know someone who's struggling with boundaries, self-worth, or being taken for granted, share this with them. Sometimes hearing it from someone else is what finally makes things click. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, take care of yourself.